Projections are an essential part of any business, and while doing a yearly projection is pretty simple, if you just take a look at your past performance, doing a 5-year projection can be super duper complicated for some people. But you don't have to worry about that anymore, because in this video, I'll be teaching you everything you need to know about long-term projections and why you should consider doing one. So let's begin. 5-year projections or forecasts are basically an accurate prediction of how well your business is going to perform over the next few years with the help of data that is already available to you. Now, 5-year projections aren't always accurate, but for the most part, there's usually a tiny margin of error that won't really matter in the long run. The forecast includes everything from cash flow, revenues, profits and losses, and more. This is meant to give you an idea of how your business will perform, but it's important that your forecast is realistic and it takes everything into consideration. The first thing you need to do is to compile all the historical data you have available. If you've been running your business for a while, you probably already have a plethora of documents like balance sheets, income statements, and cash flow statements. In case if you're new to business, it's a little more complicated. You will need a lot more market research to truly get an idea of how your business is going to perform in the next 5 years. And even after you do that, the rest of the results won't be as accurate as they would be if you were actually running a business for a while. I don't really recommend you go as far as 5 years if you are a new business. Ideally, your business should be at least 3 years old before you start making a 5-year projection. This way, you have plenty of data to dig through, and investors will be a lot more confident with the findings. Now, before you start predicting how much revenue you are going to earn, you first want to predict how much you're going to spend on your business. I'm not talking about the salaries or running expenses. I'm talking about the purchases and purchase orders. Predicting how many purchases you're going to make is one of the easiest things about this whole ordeal. If your business is diversified, it can be a bit complicated to try to get the exact number of orders you're going to make for each product. That's why you might want to use an aggregate estimate. After this, you do the exact same thing, but for sale. Create an estimate of just how much you're going to earn from these sales, including how much potential profit you're going to make. Keep in mind, the 5-year projections are long-term, so they usually assume that all the external factors remain the same. They don't try to predict what's going to happen in let's say the global market, like the pandemic that we're in now. While what I've mentioned so far is good to make a good month-long forecast, is not really enough to create a 5-year forecast. This is where your business plan comes into play. You need to plan in advance of how many orders or more orders you want to make. And you also need to know how many of these orders you're going to sell. If you're smart about it, you probably order as many as you're able to sell, but that's not always the case. But one thing you should also keep in mind is that your forecast is not the only ideal scenario. It's the more realistic scenario. Ideally, you'll be getting investments left and right, making as many orders as you want, and you'll be selling out of everything every day. But that's not reality. What you need to do is predict realistically and how high your demand is going to be and what you're going to do to meet that demand. So after that, you should start writing a report for each and every month concerning the following 5 years. This is where your past performance will help you out a lot. For example, if you had a marketing campaign in the past that results in a boost of sales, you can use that to predict the results of the future marketing campaign you plan. Doing a little bit of research, such as taking a look at a close competitor sales numbers and how they react to certain changes, may also give you a pretty accurate estimation of how it's going to affect your business. Now, having that information might not be readily available to you. You probably have to do some research to get that information. If everything is planned out in advance, you should do a month-by-month forecast for your business conditions until you have a full year. After that, it's pretty simple. It's easy to just analyze the yearly report and use the trends just to create the forecast of the following 4 years. Just remember to factor in the changes of additions you plan for your business in advance. For instance, if you plan to purchase a vehicle, that vehicle will be at an expense. So you want to put that in the plan after you made a certain dollar amount. Maybe or you you're planning to purchase some type of real estate. Aside from just the orders and sales, your forecast also needs to include all the additional costs associated with running a business. Fixed costs are pretty easy to predict since they're usually stay the same for the entire period. Fixed costs includes things like rent, internet bills, telephone bills, and insurance. All of these costs you can avoid, increase or decrease unless you went out your way to do so. So it's best to just leave them as is. Now, the real trouble begins when you start to predict your variable cost. As the name suggests, the costs are usually never the same. As I mentioned before, maybe you want to purchase a car. Variable costs, that will mean the down payment for the car, including things like how much you're going to spend on research and development, marketing, sales, and much more. However, you can get pretty good idea of what that might be by taking the aggregate of all the previous variable costs and also analyzing how your business performs affected by these costs. You're not just done yet because you also need to factor in the costs of things like one-time payment for cars, machineries, or even investment. This isn't something you should worry about too much, but if it's something that's extremely important, like say a machine that could exponentially decrease the cost of your products, then you should definitely mention that and the impact it will have on your business performance overall. So now you're probably wondering how a 5-year forecast helps a business. The first thing is that it makes it a lot easier for you to get a bank loan and investments and financiers. Now, I always talk about bank loans and how to get a business loan. So this is a 5-year projection is something that your bank or investors will look for. Investors want to invest in a business that they know they will be successful, and they need to know what kind of impact their investments will have on their business. You can also make a 5-year projections for hypothetical scenarios to accompany the one you already made. For example, you could show exactly what you're going to do to spend their money on and how it's going to benefit them. On top of that, a 5-year projections can help you in the planning department as well. If you're unhappy with how the forecast turned out, you can always make some small or big changes to try to come up with different results. It helps identify all the issues you might be facing. It also makes sure that you always make informed financial decisions. You're never hit with surprises. If you already know how much money you need to spend, it can help reduce some of the money that you waste on purchases that you don't need. There are some cases in which vendor or suppliers may increase their prices without even telling their clients. And having a 5-year forecast can help you keep an eye out for if something like that ever happens. A 5-year forecast is not just going to help you if it's just something you write down once and just forget about it. It's for the rest of your career. It's a roadmap, people. Just like your business plan, this is appendices of your business plan. This is a roadmap for your business, which a business may undergo some major changes, but you can always revise your forecast to show those changes as well. Better yet, make a revised forecast before you make those changes, just so you know what you're going to do with work. At the end of the day, does every business need a 5-year projection? Probably not. Probably a 3-year projection. You need to do some type of projection because your business is different. If you don't have that type of business, your business is different, but you need at least a 3-year projection. That's a wrap on how to do a 5-year projection. Let me know in the comment section, are you doing a 5-year projection or even a 3-year projection for your business? And let me know what type of business you have. Like this video. It helps me with the algorithm, and subscribe to this channel. I am sending all my good to you. I will talk to you soon.